Okay, I want to welcome the students who joined us for tonight's program. Again, we're going to be talking about different roles in tech organizations associated with product design, development, and ongoing product related matters within the organization. So that would include things like product management, software engineering, of course, product marketing, a little bit of UX design, and maybe touch on data analytics as well. I'd like to welcome our guests tonight. We have Stefan Claypool, class of '09. Stefan was a Chinese and economics major at Middlebury, and he's now a principal product manager in the Boston office of Toast. We also have, and let me just check my view here. Here we go. We also have Aayam Poudel, who's class of '18 and was a CS major while at Middlebury. And Aayam is a senior software engineer with Toast in the New York City office. And hopefully we'll be joined in a little bit by Grace Jennings, class of '19, who is a IP&E major at Middlebury, who is the product marketing manager. And she's actually in the San Francisco office. So we've got three alums spread out in different offices of Toast with us tonight. So welcome.
Thanks very much for having us here, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. By the way, there's no office in New York. I just work from home.
Well, there you go.
You are the New York office,
yeah, I am the New York office. But we might be opening an office apparently here. So
well, I sometimes refer to my office here in Connecticut as the global headquarters.
yeah.
So, okay, well, good to know. So let's kind of kick things off a little bit. Stefan, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Toast. What's Toast's business? What do they focus on? What's kind of their position in the market? And then we'll move on to talking a little bit about product teams and what does that look like?
Yeah, happy to. And please jump in here at any point, given that you are the longer tenured of the two of us at Toast. So Toast is a restaurant technology company primarily based out of Boston. And we focus on being what we sometimes describe as your restaurant's operating system, all-in-one restaurant solution. If you think about restaurants that you go to in your daily life, including some in Middlebury, I'm pretty sure Two Brothers is a customer, among others. The number of challenges that even a small local restaurant faces in day-to-day operations are enormous. You have everything from accepting orders and taking payments for those orders, to firing those orders to the kitchen and managing inventory, to managing payroll, to managing staffing and scheduling, to having a website, to taking orders online, to doing your marketing, all of these different things. And historically, the restaurant space has been enormously fragmented in terms of how those pieces of value, those links in the chain, get delivered to the restaurants. You have this vendor here, that vendor here, this vendor here. Toast really competes in the market by integrating all of these different operations, all of these different features and products into one offering where every part of it works together and complements the other parts. At a very high level, the company is divided from an R&D perspective, a product perspective, into three different organizations. And as we talk through the company and kind of the roles today, understanding these organizations becomes important in understanding kind of what we do day to day. One of these is our commerce org. And this is really, I would say, the initial pillar of the Toast business. The products in there would be point of sale systems, handheld payment systems, kitchen displays, everything that happens kind of within the restaurant's operation itself to make sure that the restaurant can run. The second is the guest org. This is the org that I'm a part of. And the guest org is really all of the products where the restaurant is interacting with the people who come in to order food, the diners, the guests. So that would be online ordering, websites, email marketing, loyalty, gift cards, the consumer app, all of these different pieces. And then the third major pillar is our fintech piece. So this is the part of the company that actually executes on processing payments. And that sounds small when I just say, yeah, it's payment processing. It's actually enormous, both in terms of its complexity and its importance to the overall business and to restaurants. Restaurants are historically a very thin margin business. It's no one opens a restaurant because they think they're going to make a lot of money. They do it because they have a lot of passion. And our fintech org and the work that they do really helps make sure that they do get paid and that they are making what they need to make to keep their dreams alive. There are several other teams within Toast that manage different aspects of our products. There are infrastructure teams, there are identity teams, there are teams that are involved in kind of keeping our business running. And then there are some specialty teams. There's our retail branch, which is getting off the ground. There's our new ventures organization, which is really an incubator. So it's a complex product organization with a lot of different roles and a lot of different things that folks work on. Toast is a publicly traded company. Went public in September of 2021, the 2 days after I joined. So I'm really glad I was there for that. And is I believe about a $20 billion market cap company today. Despite that, it is still a company that's run by its founders. Our CEO, Aman, and our president, Steve, founded the company together in a basement, well over a decade ago, and have really been on an incredible journey, growing it here. Aayam, anything that you want to add about Toast, about its history, about kind of the structure of the company that you think folks should know?
I mean, you said it all. I would add, like, as somebody who works for retail, I feel I have to add this, that Toast used to be very much like restaurant focused. So operating like all the parts of a restaurant's operation, like Stefan said. But now we're moving on to new markets. Like, for example, I work in retail, so think about like convenience store, bodegas, grocery stores, like gas stations, like selling, like products at that kind of location. So we still work with the rest of Toast and everything that we own, but we kind of tailor that to retail markets. And it started off as like a startup within Toast, like a new ventures product, and it's really grown now, which is really exciting. So yeah. So we're not
So
just
you're getting both the experience of, I'll say, a growing going concern and this startup new ventures.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I spent a lot of time in that like restaurant side where I had learned quite a lot, and it's really new. Like you don't think a grocery store is that different than a restaurant, but turns out it actually is very different than a restaurant. So there's a lot to be worked on, and it's just really cool seeing it from a different angle.
Cool. Stefan, give us a kind of a 100,000 foot level view of a product and how it kind of comes together, certainly at Toast, but generally within a tech firm.
Yeah, so we're gonna, I think, talk today about different functions and different roles and responsibilities within an R&D or a product org. But just to give you the super high level view of this, at the end of the day, we are in the business of delivering value to our customers. And the way that we do that is we offer them products, features, solutions to problems that they have. And it's our job, my job, Aayam's job, our entire R&D org's job, to understand what these customers need to actually operate their business successfully and grow and thrive. We are responsible in product for understanding what these customers' needs are by however many different ways we can get to that, from customer research to data analysis to understanding industry trends to anything that we can get to. Figuring out what we can offer to solve those problems, and then going through a pretty rigorous process of development and iteration, releasing, learning, cycling through that process again and again and again into perpetuity, to make sure that we are delivering not just a product or solution that addresses the problem that they have, but also one that's progressively getting better over time. Because the reality is we're not the only guys out there doing this. There are plenty of other companies who are trying to compete in the same space. And every time we push the ball a little bit downfield, they're right there with us. And so there is this constant push to continue increasing the value we're delivering and to continue making our products, which can be physical terminals, pure software, invisible services you're not seeing, all of these things, keep making them better and keep making sure that they're valuable. And as we get deeper into kind of the individual functions that myself and Aayam and the folks we work with do, we'll talk a little bit more about how we each contribute.
Okay. Let me just stop there and I'll invite the students. If you have any questions at this point, go ahead and raise your hand electronically, and then we'll call on you and you go ahead and unmute and come on camera to ask your question. So any questions at this point? Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, should I turn my camera on?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is
Good to see
Alex.
you.
I'm with Middlebury. Good to see you guys. The question I have is very, very niche, and it's actually about the business itself. So something I've done from November to January was being a software developer at Middash. So it is a startup on campus, and what it does is that we deliver from the grill, and the grill is essentially the only restaurant on campus that is operated by Middlebury. And something we noticed is that we need to have a manager who sees the order on the website and then goes to the counter end and tells the orders to the person at the restaurant. So I'm actually curious if Toast could help us in this specific part. So could Toast link with our orders and give them directly to the website? So how does the service work, and could me and my team start using it?
Do you want to answer? Or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what you just described, a pretty common problem in the restaurant space. Because you essentially got, a couple things going on. You have kind of the guest facing or diner facing aspect of the business where you're taking orders, where you're getting that interface. And then you have the back of the house, the kitchen, where things are actually getting built or prepared and the food is actually shipped out. And communication between the two becomes very important. Toast has a variety of different products that interface at both ends of that. And part of, when I go back to this idea of being a restaurant operating system, part of the value that we offer to our customers is connecting that front and back side of that. So our ordering systems and our kitchen systems are connected together. Order data passes from one to the other without someone needing to run back and forth and kind of communicate what's going in and what's being requested. And that happens from a variety of different ordering experiences. So it can be at the point of sale, it can be at a kiosk, it can be online. Those orders are just fired to the kitchen as they come in without someone needing to go between. I think it could work at the grill.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and continue. So at this point, actually, could you just talk a little bit about software engineers' role? What you do, what do you focus on, who do you work with, and maybe touch on the skills or attributes that you think are important in an individual that would help them be successful in this role.
Yeah, so a software engineer's role, starting there, is basically like the basic role is build the software. It can be a little different depending on teams and the kind of software you work with, and like the way you build that software might be a little different. So for example, like there's teams that build software for internal folks, right? Like for example, let's say I work in DevOps, tech ops, that kind of stuff, where I would be building products, building tools for engineers that work at Toast to build software for customers. So that would be one kind of role. A different kind of role would be building APIs that are exposed to like other teams that other teams code against, building infrastructure that other teams code against, making sure that like data is flowing in and out of Toast properly, that there's data integrity, like nothing's getting messed up. So there's teams that build that kind of software as well. And then there's teams that build software that directly faces the customer. So think about like ordering, online ordering, that kind of stuff where you're a guest coming into like an app and ordering food that way. You're building products that way. You could be building products for restaurant user, like restaurant employees. So putting down an order, taking payments inside a restaurant, like those are more like both guest facing and customer facing, like similar roles, but one is being used by uh guest coming to a restaurant and one is being used by a customer. So like those are the different kinds of roles at Toast for an engineer. Um, and a day-to-day kind of like an engineer, basically you work with a product manager. So you get kind of your information about like the kind of product you're building with the product manager. Some teams have really well-established product systems where you really like are working directly with the product manager who's giving you like extremely detailed product requirements, being like build this exact kind of UI, and like they have designers, which Stefan can probably talk about later, but they have designers they work with that give them the designs and they iterate with that, and then the final design comes to us and the final like product requirement comes to us and we kind of build it that way. um Different, I mean, some teams like don't have that structured kind of product setup where like if you're like a new ventures team working on it, you're kind of playing a little bit of product manager there while working on it. Like you might have one product manager between like a few teams who gives you more like high level requirements and you kind of like go with that. Depends on how established the team is. um, I've done both at Toast and both have been very interesting experiences. You basically, so you take these requirements, you write code against something that already exists, like work with different parts of Toast. Depending on front end or back end engineer, you're either writing front end or back end code. Like think about like React, JavaScript, all of that if you're front end. And like on the back end, we use Java, Kotlin, that kind of stuff, working with like PostgreSDB, DynamoDB, that kind of databases. So you're writing code, that's one. Second part is like maintaining that code, making sure that there's no bugs. Sometimes you might hear from customers through your product manager or like somebody that relays it out to you, or like through support that like some software is broken somewhere and you kind of have to investigate what's broken and fix that. Those depend on severity, and like product managers will come in and kind of label like the level of severity to you, and like not all bugs are the same, but you'll like kind of work on some bugs here and there, work on maintenance. Sometimes the software that you built like 3 years ago gets a little outdated, so you have to like kind of work on fixing that, like making it a little better, like adding systems that scale it better. So like let's say you rolled out something to 1,000 customers and now you have 100,000. That's very different, and that's very different expectations. So you kind of have to work to build that scale up. Um, so you kind of work on that. Some skills, I mean, required for this role. Yeah, basically, if you're a computer science major at Middlebury, like I think Middlebury will give you that foundation of like good computer science knowledge, like the fundamentals you'll learn there. I will say a lot of what I do now is like building upon that fundamental knowledge I learned at Middlebury, and kind of Middlebury teaches how to do computer science. It doesn't really teach you how to build software per se, but that's fine because you learn how to build software in the real world when you like work on it. Like all you need is that like fundamental, like how computers work, right? So you kind of build upon that, you learn on your job, and you kind of like write software, fix it, all of that. Um, yeah, I think that's my like day to day how I would say, yeah, like going back to like the skills, I would say that's one of the skills, like the technical skills. I mean, there's a lot of communication and a lot of like talking to other people that comes with the role. So like, I mean, I have to talk to product managers, UX designers, my manager, some other teams. Like I work with so many teams that like communicate what I work with like all of these folks, and communication becomes like a very big part. That's something that like Middlebury teaches you very well, I would say, like how to be a critical thinker and effective communicator. I think you learned that at Middlebury, but you kind of like learn that from a technical lens at the job as well. Um, yeah, that's kind of my spiel around software engineering, unless you have
Okay.
particular questions.
Yeah, I have one simple question, and that is, many times students may think this, that Middlebury, from a computer science, software engineering perspective, is maybe not as good as folks that are coming out of technical software development programs at big universities. And I'm just curious, you having been in the working world now for several years, how do you feel you measure up relative to other software engineers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when I joined, I definitely had that like imposter syndrome, that kind of, I don't know, that like idea that, okay, Middlebury doesn't teach me enough technical skills. Um, I definitely had that idea in my mind, but like once I started working, I realized that like I definitely have all the fundamentals that I need. I mean, there's things that, like when I joined the company, there was the intern on my team had worked on like he was like a grad, like he was not even a grad, he was in college, he was a technical college person who had done like five, or his college, like you have to do like 5 or 6 internships during your college time, and this was like his like sixth software engineering internship, so he was much better than me at the job. But like, like that's something that you just like pick up and learn at the job. Like even if you went to like a very technical school, like yes, you're getting a little bit more maybe like at the school, but then once you start working, you kind of forget a lot of things you learned in the school technically anyway. Like the fundamentals always stay, but like I don't think it matters that much. I think what actually is more valuable is that like being at mid, like I took, I think 13 computer science classes, but like I took, history, and like I took like sociology, I took, American studies, like all of these other classes that were so fun and like stretch my learning in many different ways, where like I learned how to, I don't know, like communicate better, write better, all of that, that just a technical education wouldn't have provided me. So I think that looking back, honestly, that was probably more valuable coming out of Middlebury than just like a computer science degree. Everything you learn, like you learn on the job, besides like, your data structures and algorithms, like which Middlebury teaches you. So I think you're fine.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Stefan, why don't we bounce to you and talk to us about the product manager role? What's that all about? And then we'll kind of move into some of the other roles that product managers interact with, as well as the software engineers.
Yeah, happy to. And I think as I do this, I'll caveat this up front by saying product management is it's kind of a weird phrase. And it's a weird phrase because the meaning behind it is much more ambiguous than you would think. I am described kind of the software engineer's role and just the wide variety of things that you do as a software engineer. But at the end of the day, you are writing code, you are writing software. There is a concrete objective. Product management is more nebulous. And so you have to come up with the way that you are going to think about that and the way that you execute your job. And the best one that I have figured out after doing this job at different companies for 8 years is a product manager is the person responsible for the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And I want to be really specific about that. So as the product manager, you are not able to code. You are not able to do design. You are not able to run advanced data analytics. You are not able to do the financial modeling. You don't do the sales. You don't do the marketing. You don't do the formal corporate strategy. You don't do customer care. You don't do customer research. You don't do tech support. but you are responsible for every one of those things because you own the outcome. What that means is, as a product manager, your job is to enable all of those people around you to be able to achieve the goal that you have set for your product, your business, and your customers. My job day to day is mostly talking to people. And that can be talking to the engineers on my team, who I work with very closely. And I have to provide to them clarity on, what are we trying to build? What are we trying to deliver to the customer? Why are we doing this? I have to help them understand where the customer is coming from so that they can execute. Same conversation with my designer. I also have to be talking to customers. I have to be talking to customers any way I can, either directly through our sales team, our marketing team, our onboarding team, our care team, anywhere, to get the information that I need to do the thing that ultimately I have to do day in and day out, which is make decisions. As the product manager, there is high potential for you to be a choke point for a lot of people. They look to you to understand what you're trying to do and why as a team. And if you are not able to make decisions and provide them direction and help them get unblocked, then you become an obstacle to your team achieving its outcome. It's very challenging, and it's a role with a lot of ambiguity in it because the job itself is so nebulously defined. But let's talk about skills you can actually develop to do that. Aayam did a really good job of describing, like, you get certain skills through formal training at Middlebury and at any school. But you need to think you're going to graduate, and you are not going to graduate as a finished product. Like, you're not done. When you go and you start working, you start developing a broader set of what I'd say are hard skills. There are some hard skills you can learn now. There are different software development methodologies that you can learn. You can learn about Agile. You can learn about Scrum. You can learn about how to use road mapping tools like Jira. You can learn how to do statistical analysis, which is helpful when you're dealing with large data sets. But in the course of doing the job, you will find opportunities to learn how to do that as well. Most of those things that I just described, I actually learned how to do on the job. I didn't learn how to do those at Middlebury. What you learn at Middlebury are the soft skills. And I would describe that in really 3 different pieces. One is, because Middlebury is structured as a liberal arts program, and you're exposed to a lot of different things, different topics, different methods of study, different ways of thinking about those topics. You have the opportunity to develop the ability to see patterns and to understand complex systems in a way that some of your peers, you would be surprised to learn, do not. And you learn how to reduce those and break those down into simple parts. That's extraordinarily valuable when your job is so complex and so nebulous and you have to make decisions to unblock people. The second thing that you do is, because you have to make decisions and you're learning all of these things at Middlebury, you are, and I think this is a real testament to the ethos of the college, you are taught to be accountable. And that sounds so weird and obvious, but that's because you're Middlebury students. You're in a small community of extremely smart people, all working together. And you are, in that environment, forced to be accountable for the work you're doing and to be accountable to your classmates. I think especially for folks who went through the language programs and maybe even did summer language school, that is an invaluable experience in that. Like, you don't get through that if you're not in it together, and helping each other out along the way. And then the third thing that Middlebury does really well, and this is critical for that point I brought up about speaking to customers, understanding customers. Middlebury as a culture I think does a good job of teaching you to maximize your empathy. Because again, you're there with a lot of really smart people. And you're probably arguing with them day in and day out about something because it's fun. You're at college. One of the things that I learned at Middlebury was how to really disagree with someone about something while still understanding them. And that becomes invaluable when you're trying to put yourself in the shoes of a customer, or you're trying to negotiate with another team internally for resources, or you're trying to figure out how do I persuade this person who is just wrong to do what I need them to do. You're able to do that because you're able to connect with them and empathize with them, because that's what Middlebury's training. The hard skills you pick up, the things I just described, are things you can be working on now. And when you get out into a job, you're going to screw them up a bunch of times, because that's what working is. You learn and you get better, and you figure it out along the way. But that foundation that you're laying now of being able to handle complexity, being able to connect with people, being able to empathize, being able to make those decisions when you need to, that's the stuff that really separates an ineffective product manager from.
Good, thank you. I wonder if the two of you could just comment briefly on the other roles that are in tech organizations that maybe Middlebury students should know about, because it isn't just software engineering, it isn't just product management. What are some of the other roles that they should be thinking about? And then maybe, if you will, just a brief commentary around what one thing you think Middlebury best prepares all of those roles for within an organization. So either one of you, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that we both kind of called this out. The third pillar of the research and development triad at Toast is the UX design. And the UX designer is someone who is pretty critically important to the work that we do. A good UX designer is someone who understands deeply the problem that a customer is facing and is able to visualize a solution that a customer would actually be able to use. So if I'm a product manager, I say to a designer, hey, we're trying to solve problem X. And then the designer says, this is how a customer would go through a particular product experience to address that problem. And then I am in the engineering team would say, okay, that's how we're going through it. This is how we can build it. Really, really important function. I can keep going. You can jump in as well.
I mean, those are kind of like the 3 R&D roles, right? Research and development. Like you work in product, you work in engineering, product design. There's other stuff beyond that, like that. I don't think, I mean, Stefan, maybe you work with sales folks more, but working from home, I don't really interact with them that much. But like, there's definitely like the sales roles that you're like selling a product, right? Like probably Middlebury grads would be great for that. I mean, I've seen friends of mine who've worked in like different sales orgs who've done incredible jobs and, really advanced in their careers. So definitely that's something I can like see folks going into. There's customer support, more like solutions engineering. So there's like, like if you think customer support, there's like that, like helping customers on the phone is like one thing, but like there's definitely like folks that, have this like technical knowledge and like knowledge of a product, and they kind of like engineer solutions for customers, kind of like a bridge between like the engineering team and support. So one of my friends does that. He's not a Middlebury alum, he's a Bates alum, but very similar schools.
Forgiven.
Yeah, and I've seen folks do that kind of stuff. There's like, your HR roles, your recruiting roles. There's many different roles in software companies that are out there that maybe Stefan and I are not the best to speak for, but like what I did when I looked for jobs was like I would hit up random Middlebury alums on LinkedIn and be like, hey, can I talk to you? And it worked for me. So I would definitely recommend that if you want to learn like more deeply about like these roles, and people are always happy to like answer, and yeah.
The really cool
Other-
thing is today, students have mid to mid,
Oh yeah,
which
true.
is the Middlebury Professional Network, right? So obviously we would suggest that they look there first. And then LinkedIn is usually a good resource as well. Talk a little bit about project management and program management,
Yeah.
because those are a couple of roles that I know students are looking at as well.
Yeah, I'll talk about those, and then I'll also talk about product marketing, which Grace was supposed to be here today. I've actually gotten in touch with Grace. She's dealing with a family emergency.
Okay.
Project management, program management. You'll see these in some companies used interchangeably, in some not. Generally, Toast does not have a project or program management function in the same way that some companies do it. My previous employer was PayPal. That was a big function there. Broadly speaking, a project or program manager's job is I would describe it as one part tactical and one part administrative. On any given project that any team is executing, there are a lot of different pieces that need to be aligned and moving in the same direction and working to get over the finish line. And depending on what you're doing, that can be confined to one team, or it can cross 10, a dozen, 2 dozen different teams. A project manager or program manager is responsible for making sure that all of the people who need to pull their weight and be accountable for the overall project to be delivered are doing the things they need to do. They're identifying blockers, they're identifying obstacles, they're figuring out, okay, this stream is having this trouble here. That's going to have this impact across the rest of the org. We can address that if we do this here. And generally trying to keep all of the different streams moving together at the same time. Toast doesn't have that function formally. And a big part of that, I think, is just the where we are in our growth as a company. A lot of our projects, we'll have some things, Aayam, I don't know if you had to touch SWE in any way or if you just heard about it. But we will, lucky you. We do have some things that do span the organization a little bit more, but generally that's just not where we are in our growth. But bigger tech companies in particular, that will be a function. The other thing I want to touch on is product marketing, which is a role that you'll hear described in different ways in different tech companies. The distinction I would say between product management, product marketing, program management, project management here is the product marketer is responsible more than anything else for, okay, we are providing input to the product team so they know the things that are being built or should be built. And then after the product and engineering team, the R&D org, delivers something, the product marketing manager is figuring out how do we bring that to market. They're working to develop the go-to-market motion to actually get this thing out the door. They're working with the sales team to make sure it's positioned properly. They're working with the enablement organizations to make sure everyone's trained on it. They're the folks that are really responsible for bringing information to the R&D team and then taking the output and getting that to market. That sounds cleaner than it is. In practice, there's a lot of back and forth and mingling that happens at every step of that process. But we really look to product marketing as an extremely valuable window into what the customers are experiencing, and then as a really powerful partner for getting the things that we've built to those same customers.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to invite the students who are participating, if they would like to unveil themselves and ask questions, we'll move to the Q&A portion of the program.